There are basically two groups of Oleksandr Usyk skeptics. The first group is the Deontay Wilder fanboys, but they've got an agenda. They're going to trash Oleksandr Usyk regardless. Most of them are pea-brained and ignorant, so they can't really be taken seriously. And therefore, I'm not going to address them in this video. I'm going to address them in a separate video, the link to which you can find down in the description box below. So if you're one of those Wilder fanboys who wants to hear me address you directly, go and watch the video that I've linked to in the description below. Because in this video right here, I'm going to be addressing the other group of Oleksandr Usyk skeptics, the people who I call the objective skeptics. They don't have an agenda. They don't have anything against Usyk. They've just looked at his fights at cruiserweight, along with his fight here against Chaz Witherspoon, and come to the conclusion that this guy can't mix it with the top heavyweights out there, the likes of Wilder, maybe even AJ Fury, etc., and that he won't beat any of them. So those are the people I'm going to address in this video, the objective skeptics. Now, some of the things the objective skeptics have been saying. They've said that Chaz Witherspoon was able to catch Usyk with some right hands early in the fight. And so was Tony Bellew. And if he's getting caught by guys like this, Wilder's definitely going to be able to catch him. Wilder hits much harder than both those guys, and therefore it leads to disaster for Oleksandr Usyk if he fights Deontay Wilder. A knockout defeat. This is one thing that some of these objective skeptics are saying. Another thing they're saying is that Usyk wasn't able to drop Chaz Witherspoon, wasn't able to get him out of there to their satisfaction. I guess they were looking for an early knockout. Wasn't able to do that, and therefore they're saying he doesn't have the punching power to be able to trouble the big boys in the division, the top heavyweights. And without punching power in this current heavyweight era, you're going nowhere. Okay, so that's another point they bring up. So let me address the first point first of all. With regards to the fact that Witherspoon and Bellew and other fighters are landing on Usyk. Let me give you some examples of fighters who are able to land on Wilder opponents much more easily than Wilder could. Let me give you some examples. First of all, Eric Molina. Deontay Wilder struggled to land on Eric Molina. He looked terrible in this fight. It was his first defense of the WBC heavyweight crown. Molina was using a lot of upper body movement, and that's what was throwing Deontay Wilder off. He was struggling with his coordination, struggling with his timing, just couldn't pin Eric Molina down for long stretches in the fight. And of course, Molina came back with counter punches, wobbled Deontay Wilder a couple times. Okay? But yet when Eric Molina fought Anthony Joshua, Joshua had no problem finding his range against Molina. Was able to land on him very early on, get him under control very quickly, and took him out of there much quicker than Deontay Wilder could. Then we can move on. Well, I'll come back to the Duopa fight actually in a bit because, I mean, Johan Duopa is a tough heavyweight, but certainly not an elite heavyweight. Look what he did to Deontay Wilder's eye. Have you guys forgotten about this? That's what he did to his eye. And Johan Duopa, by the way, took the Deontay Wilder fight on pretty short notice. Not as short as Chaz Witherspoon took the Usyk fight on, that has to be said, but still relatively short notice. Look what he did to Wilder's eye. Anyway, another example here. Artis Spilka. He used foot movement to offset Deontay Wilder's right hand. Deontay Wilder could not land a meaningful right hand on Artis Spilka for 9 rounds. By the 9th round, Spilka's foot movement had slowed down and he was becoming more aggressive against Wilder. And he actually walked on to the right hand, which knocked him out. Wilder threw multiple right hands for the course of the first 8 rounds, but couldn't land anything meaningful on Spilka. But yet, one fight later, Adam Kownacki fights Spilka, and he's landing right hands on Spilka with ease. No problem at all. He's not struggling for 9 rounds to land anything meaningful. He's landed meaningful shots almost immediately against the same opponent 1 fight later. Then we have the Gerald Washington fight. Gerald Washington was outboxing Deontay Wilder for 4 rounds. Wilder could not land anything meaningful on Gerald Washington. For the first 4 rounds, Washington a very big target. Washington are not, a big athletic heavyweight, but certainly not elite or even close to being elite. Wilder could not land anything meaningful on this guy for the first 4 rounds. Eventually did in the 5th. But yet, Adam Kownacki was landing meaningful shots on Gerald Washington immediately within the first minute of the fight. So again, why are you assuming that just because certain fighters can land on Oleksandr Usyk early in a fight, why are you assuming that Wilder can? Why are you assuming that Wilder is as well coordinated as Tony Bellew? Because I'm telling you he's not. Would I pick Tony Bellew over Wilder? Hell no. But there are many things that Tony Bellew does better than Deontay Wilder. If you can't see that, then you need to go Specsavers. Tony Bellew is able to roll with punches. He's more coordinated than Wilder. He's able to do more sophisticated boxing stuff in there with his feints, setting you up for quick counters. He's a smaller guy, shorter arms than Wilder. Can coordinate his arms and legs better. More sophisticated boxing moves than what Wilder does. Yeah? And that is why he was able to land on Usyk the way that he did. There's not as much of a tell on Tony Bellew's shots as there is on Wilder's shots. The trajectory is different. Yeah? Stop assuming that Wilder can do the same as Bellew in terms of land that easily. It's a silly assumption to make. Another example, if I haven't already given it, Tyson Fury when he fought Otto Wallin, well, Wallin was able to land on Fury early in the fight more easily than Wilder was able to land on Fury. Fury's upper body movement was giving Wilder fits for the first 9 rounds. Same as Eric Molina's upper body movement, which was giving Wilder fits. How long did this fight go? 8 rounds or something? Molina's upper body movement was giving Wilder fits. Spilka's foot movement was giving Deontay Wilder fits for 9 rounds. So again, as talented as Deontay Wilder is, and I don't want anybody to misconstrue what I'm saying here, because for years on this channel, I've been telling people not to obsessively focus on Deontay Wilder's weaknesses while ignoring his strengths. I've been telling people not to do that for years because it's a bad oversight to make. But don't do the opposite. Don't start obsessively focusing on Wilder's strengths and forgetting all about his weaknesses. Don't do that either. Be aware of both. Be aware that against different styles, Wilder is either going to excel like he did against Brazil, a stationary guy, an enormous big target who stands there with his chin in the air with a very poor defense, who's as slow as molasses. Yeah, Wilder looked spectacular against him. Didn't look so spectacular against Spilka, did he? Or do you think it's all just because Wilder's improved massively from the Spilka fight? I think he has improved, but I think a massive factor in this, in why he struggles so much against Spilka. And Spilka, by the way, took the fight on 2 weeks' notice. When I talk about short notice, Spilka took the Wilder fight on 2 weeks' notice. Yeah? And still gave Wilder plenty of problems. Imagine if Spilka had had a full camp and had a proper preparation for the Wilder fight. He may have done even better. Movement is what gives Deontay Wilder trouble. Either upper body movement or foot movement, or both. Oleksandr Usyk has both. Again, I'm not sitting here telling you, oh, Usyk's definitely going to beat Wilder. No, what I'm telling you is it's far too premature to be dismissing Usyk's chances against Wilder or his chances against AJ, Fury, etc. just based off what? The Bellew fight and the Chaz Witherspoon fight, where he's coming off a layoff with a bicep injury and wasn't quite at the races mental. I mean, come on, people. So that's what I'll say about Oleksandr Usyk's defense. And, you know, if Bellew and Witherspoon can land on him, or Wilder's going to land, well, it's not that straightforward. Wilder's not as accurate as you think he is. I'm not saying he's the most inaccurate heavyweight in the world, but Wilder struggles with his coordination. He's not as coordinated as a guy like Bellew, not as sophisticated with his boxing moves as someone like that. Yeah? Does rely on you tiring out a lot and becoming stationary before he can crack you. Usyk has shown in many fights that he's able to maintain movement for the whole 12 rounds. Didn't we see that in the Glavatsky fight? When he's on his game, this guy will move all night. So, yeah, people dismissing him prematurely. Now, moving over to the other point, which was people saying that Usyk doesn't have the punching power at heavyweight. And these days you need punch. If you don't have power, you ain't going nowhere. It's another thing they're saying. Well, some of the greatest heavyweights of all time were not massive punchers. Ever heard of Muhammad Ali? Was never a massive puncher, but yet is still widely regarded as the greatest heavyweight ever. Larry Holmes, he had respectable power, but he was never a massive puncher. Also one of the greatest heavyweights ever. Evander Holyfield, and I'll get on to him in just a second. Never a massive puncher, but one of the greatest heavyweights. In fact, one of the most underrated heavyweight champions, Evander Holyfield. It's good that I bring Holyfield up because there are so many comparisons, so many similarities which can be drawn, you know, between Holyfield's situation when he first stepped up from cruiserweight and Usyk's situation. Both guys, undisputed cruiserweight champions. When Holyfield stepped up to heavyweight, the heavyweights back then weren't as big as they are now. That has to be said. But Usyk is naturally bigger than Holyfield anyway, so that makes up for the fact that the heavyweights today are bigger than they were in Holyfield's day. Holyfield turned pro just over light heavyweight. It's like 177 pounds or something when he turned pro. And when he first stepped up to cruiserweight, the cruiserweight limit at the time was 190 pounds. They eventually changed it to 200 pounds. So Usyk is a naturally bigger guy than Holyfield. Usyk's first fight at heavyweight, 215 pounds. Holyfield's first fight at heavyweight was like just over 200 pounds, like 202, 203 pounds. When he fought Buster Douglas, I think he was only about 208 pounds. So Holyfield is a naturally smaller guy than Usyk. But when Holyfield did step up to heavyweight, in fact, I've got his record somewhere here. Let's see where it is. Yeah, here's Holyfield. When Holyfield first stepped up to heavyweight, he was dismissed. I don't want to say right the way across the board, but there was a massive amount of skepticism about Evander Holyfield's chances to conquer the heavyweight division. Massive skepticism. They said he's too small. He doesn't hit hard enough. He was going rounds with certain fighters who top heavyweights were taken out early. Alex Stewart, for example, Holyfield fought him twice. First fight, I think, went 8 or 9 rounds. The second fight went the distance. Alex Stewart got knocked out by Mike Tyson in 1 round. Just to give you an example, okay? Holyfield, you know, he fought several fights at heavyweight before he eventually challenged Buster Douglas for the heavyweight title, knocked him out. When he fought George Foreman, there was a massive amount of criticism that Holyfield received after the Foreman fight because they said, this is an old man, Holyfield should have knocked him out. But Holyfield couldn't knock him out. He hit Foreman with everything but the kitchen sink, couldn't knock him out. But yet Muhammad Ali knocked a prime Foreman out back in the 70s. But Holyfield couldn't knock out the old man version. What's that all about? Massive criticism Holyfield got for that. Then he fought Burt Cooper in his next defense. Now, originally, they wanted to fight Mike Tyson instead of, not instead of Burt Cooper, but they originally wanted to fight Mike Tyson on that date, there or thereabouts. But Tyson ended up with that rape case and, he went to prison and whatnot. So then they brought in Francesco Damiani. Damiani pulled out at the last minute and in stepped Burt Cooper, who was a journeyman. And Burt Cooper nearly knocked Evander Holyfield out. Holyfield did drop Burt Cooper in the first round with a body shot, but he never dropped Burt Cooper with a headshot despite hitting Burt Cooper with, it must have been hundreds of power shots. I mean, he was letting off volleys against Burt Cooper of hooks and uppercuts, and Cooper wouldn't go down. And Cooper had been down in many fights before. So again, more skepticism was, piled on, and people just did not believe in Evander Holyfield after that, because they were looking at the Cooper fight thinking, man, if this guy had fought Tyson, Holyfield would have got knocked out in a round. Then he fought Larry Holmes, went the distance with Larry Holmes. By this time, Holmes was ancient. Went the distance. The guy who Mike Tyson had knocked out a couple years earlier in 4 rounds, Holyfield went the distance with him. Oh no, Holyfield's never going to do anything. He's never going to be, up there with the Tysons and the real top heavyweights. He's only undisputed champion right now by default, because he beat Buster Douglas, who was just a flash in the pan, one-hit wonder. He defended against old man Foreman. Then he beat a journeyman in Burt Cooper. Then he fought an ancient Larry Holmes. I mean, he's not exactly fighting the best opposition. So there was massive skepticism about Holyfield at this point. Then he fought Riddick Bowe, and of course he lost to Riddick Bowe. It was a tremendous fight, but he lost. And the whole boxing world were basically saying, see, Holyfield's a brave guy, this, that, and the other. But he's just not big enough to compete at heavyweight, because the first time he's been put in against a legitimate heavyweight, he's lost. So that was it. They writ him off. They said he might as well retire. It's what people were saying. Might as well retire. He came back after that, and that's when he had the rematch with Alex Stewart. Then he had the rematch with Riddick Bowe. Was dismissed, was expected to lose. Most of the experts, quote unquote, thought Holyfield would get stopped in the rematch with Bowe. But no, Holyfield went in there and he beat Bowe in a rematch. You see, Holyfield wasn't relying on being this big puncher, going out there like a Mike Tyson and cleaning people out in a couple rounds. No, Holyfield was using his coordination, his foot movement, his balance, combination punching, sticking and moving, and that's how he beat Riddick Bowe in that rematch. You see, in the first fight, Holyfield was too macho and he was trying to trade too much with Riddick Bowe. In the second fight, he did trade, but not as much as the first fight, and he moved more on Riddick Bowe. He understood that he had the quicker feet than Bowe, and on the outside, despite the fact Riddick Bowe had a real good jab, he could have success against Bowe, putting combinations of punches together, keeping up a high work rate. Because on the inside, Riddick Bowe can punch with you. But if you make the big man have to move around the ring, that's going to hurt his stamina. Holyfield understood that, and he used his cruiserweight speed, his cruiserweight mobility, etc., to defeat Riddick Bowe in that rematch, in the famous Fan Man fight. I remember watching that fight live on ITV back in the days. Now, Holyfield then fought Michael Moorer, lost that fight. This is sounding like a Holyfield career review, and it isn't. He lost the Michael Moorer fight on points. I think he then fought Ray Mercer, beat Ray Mercer. Then he had the rubber match with Riddick Bowe, and he got stopped in the rubber match with Riddick Bowe. Not before knocking Riddick Bowe down, which again, people who have been dismissing Holyfield's power for years, they saw him knock Riddick Bowe down with that big left hook and nearly knock him out. And they were thinking, whoa, maybe Holyfield's power is better than we thought all along, if he's nearly knocking Riddick Bowe out with his left hook. But ultimately, he was stopped by Riddick Bowe and stopped badly. After that fight, they discovered that Holyfield had some kind of heart problem. Okay, I'm not talking about his courage, talking about his actual heart within his chest. He had some kind of heart problem. Now, some people say this is linked to substances he was allegedly taking, but nonetheless, he was diagnosed with a heart problem and they actually took his license off him. So Holyfield wasn't able to box for a prolonged period of time because of this heart issue. And he looked bad in that Riddick Bowe rubber match when he got stopped. First time he'd been stopped in his career. He eventually got his license back and he fought Bobby Ches, and he didn't look good against Bobby Ches. Now, meanwhile, Mike Tyson had come out of prison and he was running roughshod through the heavyweight division again. Mike Tyson had blasted out Peter McNeely in 1 round. He blasted out Buster Mathis Jr. in 3 rounds. Was it 3 or 4? I think it was 3 rounds. He blasted out Frank Bruno in 3 rounds, which was much easier than his first fight against Bruno. Blasted out Bruce Seldon and around. I mean, he was just walking through the division again. So I know now, in retrospect, particularly the Tyson fanboys, they look back at, oh, Tyson was never the same after prison. You can't count that. Well, I remember because I was around at the time. And I remember very clearly that Mike Tyson was seen as being far closer to his prime than Holyfield was at the time when they fought. Tyson was 30, I think, at the time. Holyfield was 30, I think 33 or 34, something like that. And Holyfield had been stopped. Holyfield had his license taken away and had health problems and all this kind of stuff. He didn't look good against Bobby Ches. Tyson was blasting people out. So Holyfield was totally dismissed when he fought Mike Tyson. Even if you want to say Tyson wasn't quite at his best, well, Holyfield wasn't at his best either. You want to say Holyfield was taking substances? Well, he was taking substances against Riddick Bowe too. Still lost against him. Allegedly taking substances, I should say. Still lost against him. But yet when he fought Tyson, beat the crap out of Tyson. Pulled off one of the biggest upsets in boxing history. It was like a 25-1 underdog or something like that. And I was one of the people who thought Holyfield would get blown out. Because Mike Tyson, normally when he fought small heavyweights, he just walked straight through them, like Michael Spinks. And that's what I thought at the time. I was like, he's going to walk through Holyfield. Holyfield's washed. Most people thought Holyfield was washed. So here we have a guy in Evander Holyfield who, throughout most of his career as a heavyweight, he was dismissed. He was written off time and time and time and time and time and time and time again. So being someone who has lived through the Holyfield era and seen how many times he was written off, I am not going to write off Oleksandr Usyk. I mean, first of all, Usyk didn't even look that bad against Chaz Witherspoon. Don't know where people are going. It's not like he got dropped like Holyfield did against Burt Cooper. And Cooper took that fight on very short notice. And he was a journeyman. And he dropped Holyfield in that fight. Or at least, made him take a count. Holyfield grabbed hold of the ropes to stop himself hitting the canvas. Usyk didn't look that bad. got caught one or two little shots. Nothing that did any serious damage. And then he found his range, found his timing, and he turned up the temperature and dominated the fight. I don't know why people are going so overboard with it. Punching power is not the be-all and end-all. Usyk is not coming in there trying to be, competing with Joshua and Wilder and some of the bigger guys when it comes to punching power. That's not what he's about. He's trying to outmaneuver them. He's trying to make them miss. He's trying to frustrate them. That's what Usyk's going to do. He's not going to fight the same way against a Wilder or a Joshua as he fought against a Witherspoon or a Bellew. It's not going to be the same. He's going to be sharper. He's going to be more on it. Of course he is. Nothing could be more obvious than that. Now, I'm not saying that Usyk beats any of the top heavyweights. I'm not saying that he does, and I'm not saying that he doesn't. I'm just saying that don't be so short-sighted in writing the guy's chances off. Based upon what, really? Based upon nothing. So that's what I'll say, people. And I'll close it out with saying this. When Deontay Wilder fought the likes of Eric Molina, in my post-fight video, I said it was a horrible performance by Deontay Wilder. Terrible performance. I said on this performance, he ain't going to beat Klitschko. And indeed, he wouldn't have beat Klitschko on this performance. If you had replaced Molina with Klitschko in this particular fight, Wilder wouldn't have won. But I said in this post-fight video that, in my view, this is not Deontay Wilder at his best. Deontay Wilder underperformed. One of the things I brought up is the possibility that Wilder was maybe a bit nervous fighting in front of his hometown fans for the first time. And that can affect you. Sometimes fighting in front of your home fans can actually work against you rather than for you. Depends on what kind of character you are and depends on the circumstances. But it was Wilder's first big fight in front of his hometown fans. And to me, he looked nervous and underperformed as a result. Yeah? There's always, mitigating circumstances. You can't just look at things in black and white all the time. You have to weigh up other factors. There were lots of people flat out dismissing Deontay Wilder as a top-level heavyweight based upon the Molina fight alone. Then when he fought Artur Szpilka, and even when he fought Johann Duopa, actually, prior to that, there were people dismissing Deontay Wilder as a top-level heavyweight. Look at what Johann Duopa did to Wilder's eye. Swole it up like that. When he fought Szpilka, again, lots of people dismissing Deontay Wilder as a top-flight heavyweight. Yet me, Hatman, I came out in defense of Deontay Wilder. I mean, go and have a look at the comments in the comment section of my Wilder Szpilka post-fight review. Go and have a look at the comments and see how dismissive people were of Deontay Wilder. Said that the guy was a fraud, that he's not going nowhere, he's a terrible heavyweight. I don't know why you think he'll beat Povetkin, Hatman, because yes, I was still saying, even though he didn't look good against Szpilka, he didn't look good against several opponents, I was still saying I think he beats Povetkin. I'm not lying. Let me play these videos here. And I'm sure some of you are going to say, there's no way he gets past Povetkin. Me personally, I'm still going to take him over Povetkin. Some people are going to say you're crazy for that, Hatman, but, you know, as long as the fight's in the... There you go. I'm still going to take him over Povetkin. That's what I was saying, even though Wilder looked lackluster against Artur Szpilka, because I understood that although Povetkin is a better fighter than Szpilka overall, Szpilka could do certain things which Povetkin couldn't do, namely constantly staying on the move, messing with the range and therefore messing with Deontay Wilder's coordination. Szpilka could do that. Povetkin's not really as adept at moving around the ring as Szpilka was at this particular time in Szpilka's career. I felt like although Povetkin would be more offensively dangerous against Wilder, he would be more available to get hit. And in fact, there's another video I did, as I showed you guys before, the Deontay Wilder Artur Szpilka aftermath. Let's listen briefly to what I said in that video. A lot of these other guys out there who they're talking about Wilder fighting like Povetkin, you think Povetkin can move like Szpilka to offset Wilder's right hand the way that Szpilka did? I've never seen Povetkin move like that in my life. In Povetkin's whole career, there's no fight where he's bouncing around for 9.5 rounds like Artur Szpilka. I've never seen him do that. Let me tell you something, he can't do that. Yeah? Povetkin has got strengths which Szpilka don't have. Yeah, Povetkin can do certain things that Szpilka can't do. He can do certain things better than Szpilka, but Szpilka can do certain things better than him. Wilder himself can do certain things better than Povetkin, and Povetkin can do certain things better than Wilder. This is why they say styles make fights. So there you go. This was me back in 2016. Telling people not to be so hasty when writing off Deontay Wilder's chances against Povetkin. Just because Szpilka was able to, you know, trouble Wilder in certain ways, it doesn't mean Povetkin's going to be able to trouble him in those same ways. And by that very same token, just because Tony Bellew was able to trouble Usyk early on in certain ways, it doesn't mean Wilder can. Wilder's not as coordinated as Tony Bellew. He's taller, arms are longer, there's more of a tell on his punches, he's not as slick, he's not as good with his feints. Doesn't roll his upper body and, you know, set shots up the way that Tony Bellew does. He doesn't rely on an opponent being stationary or coming at him as much to be able to land his big shots. Tony Bellew can fight in several different ways. Again, I would not pick Bellew over Wilder, but he's just got a different skill set and overall a better skill set. It's just that he's a smaller man in terms of height and reach, doesn't hit as hard. And Deontay Wilder, even though he is relatively limited, the strengths he does have are phenomenally strong. Deontay Wilder's punching power is outrageous. As I've said in several videos in the past, Deontay Wilder isn't just a big puncher in the heavyweight division right now. He has got historically great punching power, in my opinion, in my estimation. Deontay Wilder is one of the hardest punchers I've ever seen in my life. Right? He is tremendously hard. And I've always rated Deontay Wilder as a fighter. He's put in some horrible performances like he did against Eric Molina, but I didn't write him off. I said if he fought a top guy in that particular form, he'd be in trouble. But I think he underperformed against Molina. That's what I said at the time. So I've always been somebody who believed Deontay Wilder was legit. Yeah? Not meaning he's definitely the best in the division, but that he's going to be able to compete at the highest level and beat some of the very elite guys up there. I've always believed that about Wilder. But again, by the same token, let's not dismiss Oleksandr Usyk as a heavyweight just yet. He's going to fight totally different against the big boys. He's going to use a lot more movement. And he should have had more fights by then. I think it probably is a mistake. Well, I think there's two mistakes potentially. For Usyk to go straight in to a heavyweight title fight, I don't think that's the best idea. I think he should have 1 or 2 fights before he does that. And also adding extra muscle, because that's one thing Usyk has said in the wake of the Chaz Witherspoon fight. I think Usyk is worrying a bit too much in his head, and I think he's being a little overcritical of his own performance because he went into the fight with a negative mindset anyway. He said that in the post-fight interviews, that he had certain negative thoughts in his mind and he prayed to God to take the negative thoughts away. And because he was in a negative mindset, I think he was more critical of his performance than he would normally be. And therefore, he's looking for solutions when, you know, he's maybe exaggerating the extent of the problem. I don't think he needs to put any weight on. I think that would be a mistake. And he just needs to be more active. That's what I think. And he'll be fine. And I think Usyk will defeat one of the top heavyweights out there, at least one of them. I think both him and Michael Hunter, between them, they're going to turn over several of the big names in the heavyweight division. The big punching guys, probably when they're underdogs. That's what I'm predicting. I'm not saying that Usyk is going to dominate the division. No. I'm not saying Michael Hunter is going to do it. No. But I do expect the pair of them to be pulling off some unlikely upsets. Because they've got that movement, they've got the skill, and they will be underestimated because of the fact that we are in an era where so many people are fixated on punching power. So many people are just obsessed. They see Wilder knock out Brazil, and now, oh, that's the be-all and end-all. He's going to do that to everybody now. I mean, you couldn't find somebody more tailor-made for Deontay Wilder than Brazil, other than maybe Berman Stavern. Absolutely. In fact, truth be told, Brazil's probably more tailor-made for Wilder than Stavern is. His defense is even worse than Stavern's defense. So that's my take on the situation, people. My view on Oleksandr Usyk's chances as a top-level heavyweight, my views haven't changed based upon his performance against Chaz Witherspoon or Tony Bellew. No, hasn't changed at all. You need to think a little deeper before coming to hasty conclusions. That's what I'll tell people. Go back and look at Deontay Wilder's career. He's struggled plenty of times with fighters who some of his contemporaries have had no trouble with at all. And he will do in the future as well, by the way. Don't think that that's stopped. Don't think that Wilder is just going to destroy everybody he gets in the ring with. And, you know, when his rivals fight that same opponent, they're not going to do as well as him. No. There's going to be the opposite that happens. You're going to have certain guys that Wilder's going to struggle with, and then he's going to fight either AJ or Ruiz or Fury, and they're going to make it look easy against that guy. That's going to happen. Wilder still even though he is improving, he's still got plenty of flaws, which will be exploited moving forward. That's my take on it, people. Drop your comments in the comment section below. Let me know how you feel. It's happening. I'm out. Join me on Patreon. I upload a minimum of 2 podcasts every single week, covering a wide variety of controversial topics, as well as live stream Q&A sessions. Take a look on screen right now at some of the podcasts I've produced so far. For just $3 a month, the equivalent of about £2 a month, you get access to all my new podcasts and my entire back catalogue of past podcasts, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen on your computer or on your smartphone or tablet by downloading the Patreon app from the Google Play Store or the App Store for free. The Patreon app also allows you to download each podcast in MP3. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to dozens of hours of exclusive content. It's easy to sign up, there's no contract, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.